sometimes it's easy to have these periods of isolation be triggers, or these periods where you feel like you need to spend time alone and ignore it and, fall into codependent habits, or maybe fall into escapism habits, spending time with people who no longer serve you, or you feel worse when you leave them. What's going on, world? It's your girl Emmy here. Welcome back to my channel. I know that my setup today is a little bit different. Basically, my therapist recommended that I start video diaries, and I thought that was really interesting because I have been trying to push myself on switching this channel from astrology to more of a self-improvement focus, just because I want to keep this channel authentic to myself. And I feel like what is more authentic than sharing what I'm going through? With astrology, I was sharing as I was learning. I learn better by talking, and sharing what I learned. So that's kind of like why I even started this channel. But for those who feel like they're in a cocoon phase, if you're feeling a little lonely, if you're feeling like something is making you want to stay indoors or stay home, just know that there's nothing wrong with you. As long as it's not because you're having harmful thoughts, or it's not because, slipping to really unhealthy coping mechanisms. But if you're just feeling like this is some time for you to, cocoon phase, caterpillar phase, where, it's time to do some more inner work, establishing a stronger routine that'll make you, more physically healthier, mentally healthier, maybe it's going to bed earlier, which will make you feel physically and mentally, emotionally feel better, whatever the area is for you. I feel really called to have this time, and whenever you're seeing this, I hope this resonates with you. But sometimes it's easy to have these periods of isolation be triggers, or these periods where you feel like you need to spend time alone and ignore it and, fall into codependent habits, or maybe fall into escapism habits, spending time with people who no longer serve you, or you feel worse when you leave them. It could be feeling like you need to overeat, or maybe you're turning to smoking and drinking more, or maybe you're having people over that you shouldn't be involved with. I want you to look at this time from a different perspective. I want you to see this time as an opportunity, especially because the winter is almost over. And once the weather gets warm again, it's just going to be a lot harder to be introspective. I did a video on this already about the 4 seasons of life. A winter season does represent that period of isolation, that period of reworking, and we're just really figuring out what ideas do you want to take in to the new year. Spring equinox, from an astrology perspective, marks the new year. So maybe the universe is inviting you to really figure out what is it that you want to bring into this next year. Or maybe the universe is telling you, what did you see from the last year that didn't work that you no longer want to bring in to this next year? For me, I really want to take my physical health more seriously. I get into the routine, half fasting. I'm consistent for a week or two, then I fall off because I had one really bad hangover, or I just didn't feel like getting up early. And then next thing I know, a month goes by and I'm struggling to get myself back into that 1 to 2 week rhythm, because it takes some time to build a habit and to get comfortable in it. And I'm tired of, getting comfortable and stopping. I really want to commit. But yeah, I just want to encourage you to look at periods of isolation and see it as a time to really just rework whatever you want to bring and whatever you don't want to bring in the next year. It's March while I'm filming this, and it's we always start the new year, January, with all these ideas, all these goals. Everyone's talking about vision boards. But I feel like around March is where you're really seeing, are you committing to those goals or are you not? Maybe you forgot about those goals that you set for yourself at the beginning of the year. And maybe this is time to revisit and figure out what you want to take forward and what you don't, what needs to change. Maybe this is a time that the universe is calling you to say no more. Maybe the universe wants you to use this time to be selfish and learn the value of being selfish and learn how to set those healthy boundaries. Where have you been giving from an empty cup? What areas have you been there for others but neglecting yourself? Do you even know what your boundaries are? Do you know what your soft boundaries are? Do you know what your, those soft boundaries are boundaries that you're a little bit more negotiable with, people being late? That tends to be a soft boundary where it's okay, you're consistently late, but I can tell that you're just that type of person, versus I don't know, you're doing something blatantly disrespectful. That would be a hard boundary, where it's I don't know, insulting me. That's the hard boundary for sure. Solitude is so important for the soul, because it's easy to, especially people who are empathic, you know, the more energy that you spend with others, the more they tend to blend and wrap up with yours. And, you know, that can lead to codependency. But at the same time, when you wrap that energy with yours, it's easy for you to lose yourself. It's easy for you to adapt certain habits from other people that don't necessarily align with you. And maybe this is your dark night of the soul. Maybe you're feeling this loneliness because you don't know yourself anymore. Maybe you need to take this time to focus on the relationship that you have with yourself. A dark night of the soul. That's the Hermit card in tarot. And the Hermit card, it represents a time period in your life where things are just extremely painful, or things are, I don't want to say stacked up against you, but you know, pressure makes diamonds, right? But the journey of a dark night of the soul is a journey to come home. It's a journey to come back to yourself. It's a journey to find your voice and find the voice of God, if you believe in God, Allah, universe, divine, your ancestors. I'm a spiritual person, so of course, you know, I'm gonna take it that way. But whatever it is that you feel like you find God in, it could be when you paint. You know, when was the last time that you created that space for yourself to allow you to connect in that way? When was the last time that you prayed? When was the last time that you journaled? When was the last time that you just went on a walk and just listened to the trees? When was the last time that fed your soul? Like, I'm not talking about your ego. I'm not talking about getting your hair and nails done, even though that does make us feel good internally as well. Don't get me wrong, because confidence, but I'm talking about when was the last time that you fed your being? Okay, maybe you're being called to figure out what that being, what that inner child is asking for. You know, maybe this is a time to, maybe you really liked soccer as a kid. When was the last time you played soccer? Maybe this is the universe saying to play. Maybe this is the universe saying to, you know, your solar plexus chakra or your sacral chakra is blocked. Maybe your root chakra is blocked. Maybe you don't feel safe in your world. Well, how can you make yourself feel safe in your world? I really want you and myself, this is not just for you, this is a message for me as well. How can we go deeper, right? How can we go deeper in ourselves? And everyone's practice, everyone's technique is going to be different. There is no one size fits all. I mean, I can tell you and share the things that have helped me, but what ultimately is going to work for you. I talked about codependency a little bit. You know, sometimes we look for comfort in other people. Sometimes we look for comfort in food or, you know, drugs, sex, whatever escapist behaviors. You know, Saturn just entered Pisces. So really, Pisces, I don't want to say rules escapism, but Saturn rules your structure, your routine. Pisces rules creativity, but also, I want to say your inner child, and also like just deep sensitivity. So I really want you to take a look at the deep sensitivity within yourself, and where has that, how have you fed that? How have you fed your inner child? How have you fed your soul in your routine? Maybe moving forward, you know, this transit will be for 3 years. Maybe moving forward, there'll be something that transforms in you with your spiritual relationships. I don't know where I'm going with this anymore, but basically what I wanted to get at was routine, and being in Pisces, you know, really finding a way to have healthy coping mechanisms. I don't want to say Pisces rules escapism, but she likes to partake in things that will take her away to the other world, right? So what are some grounding practices? What are some practices that you can do on a day-to-day, if not day, weekly basis that will help you be grounded and nurture yourself? This is the time the universe is really asking us to find that love, find that peace, experience new emotions, experience emotions by ourselves. You know, maybe taking yourself out to dinner for one is something that's very intimidating for you. You know, take yourself on that date. You know, maybe you have a hard time sitting in stillness, meditate. Maybe you're somebody who has to eat with watching a TV show or washing the dishes with something on. Like, just, you know, start with meditation sounds, or just spend that time in silence and really just ask questions to whatever you believe in, God, the universe, and watch those answers come. When you ask the universe for something and you meet them halfway and you're paying attention to those signs, you will receive those answers. You know, you might be at a transformational period where the old person that you used to be no longer exists. And this, I feel like personally, we're at a crossroads as a society, but also on an individual level, where the person that you used to be and the person that you want to be, you have to make that decision now. You have to start showing up and acting like the person that you want to be. becoming her, whatever that trending thing is. But really just figuring out like old habits and routines that no longer serve you. We're just releasing that from yourself, okay? Really just letting that old you die, all right? Maybe you were a really social person in the past and maybe now you're feeling more introverted, okay? That's okay. Say no to social settings. If the person that you are trying to move forward in spends more time with themselves or spends more of their free time building themselves versus drinking or partying, you have to start by setting that boundary of saying no. Like, hey, I can't go out with you till 4 a.m, but I can do this. We can get lunch. We can do whatever. Or maybe it's turning away from a bad like eating style. Maybe you and your friends used to try out all these different fast food places, and now you want to take your health more seriously. Like, you can't keep doing it for a few days and then going back when somebody invites you to these things. I feel like maybe this period of isolation could also just be that you've outgrown your environment, and that could be why maybe if you're feeling a disinterest, sometimes disinterest in things is a symptom of depression, and maybe it's because you're feeling stuck in an identity that you've created that no longer is a reflection of who you are. So really just figuring out how you can love and replenish yourself, how you can refill that cup, and figuring out, what are these hobbies, what are these things that I've been saying I want to get into, and really replacing the time of your old person with the new person. I think the first love that you have has to be with yourself. My family's African, so there's always this expectation of us like women to just give to everybody else and like play this like hostess with the mostest type energy vibe every day. Like, we can't really have needs. We have to be ready to help and serve everybody else. But where does that get you? Nowhere. You're giving from an empty cup. So maybe this is a time to reevaluate how you love, how you provide security for yourself. Maybe you didn't feel safe in your environment as a kid. What was the things that made you feel safe in those moments of fear? Maybe exploring that, interpreting that in your current life now as an adult. What were things that you really enjoyed as a child, okay? Really just healing and sitting with the baby version of you. Everybody has an inner child, because all we are grown-up versions of the child that we were, going through life, navigating those feelings that we received, okay? And believing that that's all that we can achieve and receive, but also navigating this world based off the perceptions and the belief of everything that we didn't receive, okay? Maybe if you never received affection, you think that you can't get affection from others. Okay, well, maybe this is a time for you to provide affection for yourself, whatever that looks like to you. Maybe you never received support as a child, or you felt like you didn't have support as a child. How can you support yourself now? How can you show yourself what that support would have looked like? How can you close that chapter by being the person that you wanted to see and have for yourself at that time? How do you talk to yourself? Okay, I feel like that voice, that negative self-talk, that voice of self-doubt, they was created by everybody that was around your environment, your family, your teachers, whoever it may be, when you were a kid, okay? Those voices could have been supportive, and they could have been negative. And if you were constantly bashed on certain areas of your life, or certain things about your looks or certain things about your personality, then of course you're going to be hyper conscious and aware and afraid that people are going to see those things or call you out on those things. So is the way you speak to yourself, is it your voice, or is it the voices of others that have been put onto you? And really, when you hear that voice, what has helped me a lot is giving that voice a name, or giving that voice a different tone, so that way when I hear it, it's not my thought. There's no confusion. Our subconscious can only internalize what it's heard, right? So, and sometimes it can, mix the two as our own voice. It doesn't know which is which. So it's helped me to use my conscious mind and separate the two and see that this voice that's so mean to me is not my own voice. And that has really helped me in, boosting my self-confidence and whatever. That's a different topic. If you're interested, I can talk about it. Yeah, but just really take a look at that voice, take a look at what your limiting beliefs are, and really use this time to push yourself and to just show yourself that love that you want to receive. And that love can mean buying yourself flowers. That love can mean taking yourself to go bowling or going out to dinner for one. How are you going to transform yourself into that person that your higher self, or whatever it may be? How can you transform yourself to your highest version of yourself if you're not evolving into that person, if you're not showing up as that person? Would your higher self take herself out to dinner? Would your higher self, eat a salad for lunch versus a burger? Would your higher self make sure that she gets up and stretches in the morning? Really provide that time to flourish, okay? Really provide that time to reevaluate your routine. This is a time that the universe is allowing you to really just reestablish your boundaries, come up with a backbone and even expectation of how you want to be treated or what you want to receive from the world, the external world. And just during this time, because it can be confusing and it can be lonely and isolating, just try really hard to not entertain things that would lower your vibration, because entertaining those things can trigger you. It can trigger those areas that you're trying to heal and develop from. And it can also just continue stagnancy, something like that. Or even just like disrespecting your boundaries. Yeah, like that'll just continue keeping you from where you're trying to be. So yeah, I hope that you're setting a new standard for yourself. I hope that you set a new standard for yourself. The more you know yourself, the more that you can love yourself. The more you love yourself, the less likely that you will be entertaining or allowing anything else. You raise the bar of how you want to be treated because you're raising the bar of how you treat yourself. If you carry yourself in a way that's full of self-respect, the world has no other option but to mimic that and give it back to you. You're showing the world how you want to be treated. And just don't see this phase as a punishment, okay? That negative voice in your head that can be making you feel that way, FOMO, depression, anxiety, all these things can be making this time feel worse than it needs to be. I try to look at these periods as, what can I change? And sometimes some folks, we are all going through a journey, and some periods may be easier than others, and this might be a period for you where maybe you do need to see a therapist, maybe you do need to see a psychiatrist. I'm not bashing that at all. Maybe it's just changing your diet and eating things that are to live versus consuming food that is not good for you, because that will affect your mental health as well, including your sleep patterns, the media that you're consuming, all areas of consumption. But yeah, not every phase in life really requires external validation or not every phase of life also requires to be seen by the external world. These periods of loneliness or cocooning, whatever emotion that you may be feeling, sometimes it's triggered because we're missing the internal nourishment and internal healing. Yeah, that's everything that I have in this video. I hope you enjoyed it. And like this video, subscribe to my channel if you're not. I have some links in my bio, or my podcast and Etsy, with my socials if you want to find me. Okay, have a great night and I love you.